Let me turn to Kevin and Laura to find out what their key takeaways are.
Laura, why don't you go first?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. So one of the things that struck me, I was thinking about it from our session. We got a question about how do you set standards or data quality requirements so that you can actually find bad data, using these observability tools. And I think that's a legitimate question, but I also think because of the way these tools work and the opportunity they give you to see what your data looks like and how it behaves, that they can become a means by which you can determine what quality levels you expect and how you need your data to behave. So they provide some of the context that's necessary to set standards and to set policy around data quality requirements. And they do it in a way similar to profiling tools, just by showing you the data. But I think because they give you a very wide breadth, you could leverage them quickly to get there. So that's one of them.
Yeah, I like that. We're seeing that with a lot of ML type tooling, is that they do a lot of heavy lifting and scouring through, large volumes of data to kind of tease out what's important. And then you as the human can go and, you're more focused in the right direction and you can go be more productive. Or in this case, you can write better standards and policies because the tool did all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, and that kind of gives me a follow-up as well, which comes back to some of the remarks that I was making in the beginning, which is, when you adopt tools like this, you need a plan and a methodology for actually using the results, because they'll provide an amazing amount of data, but it can be overwhelming. So again, understanding how the tools themselves find anomalies, how they work, and then applying that knowledge so that you can bring focus to how you want to get value from them.
We've been in this space in technology for 30 some odd years, at least I have. And, you always see business people trying to put the tool in front of the horse, so to speak. And you really need a plan, a methodology, you need to focus on people in the process. In fact, that's what I would say, listening to Kevin, if you don't have your people and processes in place, the tools won't do much good. Would you agree with that statement, Kevin?
Definitely. And I think Laura would align with that too. It's interesting. One of the things along those lines is that there's a real focus on the vendor panel on FinOps, on the cost, on monitoring and optimizing cost, which certainly aligns with the cost of data delivery. That certainly aligns with findings we've had overall with cloud adoption. Organizations are moving to the cloud. Cost and efficiency is one of those things, but you need to keep a close eye on how you're using compute in particular. So cost monitoring and optimization is a big part of data observability on the pipeline side in particular.
Would you say that's one of the top use cases?
Yeah, I'd say it is. And another point is that we're definitely hearing organizations want to move should put the control point upstream, as far upstream as possible, in order to prevent issues from reaching customers. So the more you move close to the source of the data in your monitoring, the more you can remediate faster. And so that's definitely a strategy as organizations put these tools into place.
Control point, you mean point the data observability tool as close to the source data as possible, right?
Exactly, yeah. And different tools, some will do it data in flight, some will do data at rest, but the more you can do it before it hits the customer, the better.
And that, again, goes back to sort of data quality fundamentals, right? That preventing issues is the best way to reduce costs, and especially downstream costs. And the tools allow you to see the data, they allow you to understand where those control points would be, and they may even allow you to eliminate the root causes of some of the problems. The real root causes, the process causes.
I assume with these tools, you can cycle through your errors a lot more. You can catch more and learn faster. And therefore, instead of catching them, you'll be fixing them and they won't happen again. You have to be, when it comes to data observability, be ambitious in scope, but incremental in deployment. Although some of the vendors, they were saying, definitely focusing on the incremental part, right? Don't boil the ocean. I think Josh was saying that, right? Because if you try to boil the ocean, you probably won't get much done.
Yeah, there was definitely a takeaway that you do want to be very, very specific at the problems you solve. I think that if you differentiate between a project, which is specific, and an initiative, which can be strategic, longer range, and really have some hairy, audacious goals, that's the key. You need both sides.
Yeah. All right.
Just to follow up on what you both were saying about managing scope and bringing focus, one of the things that I really appreciated about the vendor panel was that all four were talking about the fact that you need to know what problems you want to solve within your organization before, just applying these tools. I think that's critical to success in all aspects of data management. If you know where your pain points are, or if you know where your opportunities are, taking either a negative or a positive starting point, you can solve your own problems, but you have to be systematic about how you approach them.
I think the inevitable question you had, Wayne, was how do you avoid the complexity of managing multiple tools? Seth had, I think, a good analogy, which I personally like because I'm a Lego fan and I also use for technology. You want to maintain Lego-like interoperability from between the pieces of your environment. As long as you have open API access and open interoperability, you can have multiple elements in your environment. You got to make sure you have it, though. Commercial and open source products, you got to make sure they work together.
And that gets to that first discussion we had in the panel about how many data observability products do you need?
Yeah.
And I forget which panel was making the argument that they all solve a very specific problem. So you basically insinuate you might need multiple data observability tools, which was interesting. That got some reaction from the audience. One question came in, well, how do you manage the interoperability among all those tools? And what about the cost? But do you guys buy into that you're going to need, if you're a big organization with lots of different things you need to stay on top of, you're going to need multiple tools?
To some degree, but I think it's going to be a very interesting and different conversation 1 to 2 years from now, because there's inevitably a convergence. There's M&A. IBM just bought Databand. There'll probably be some more of that. But also, there's a strong argument that observability should be an element of a catalog or a fabric. Yes, you need a best-of-breed pure play solution for some specific problems, but there's some good enough approaches where if this is a feature of a data fabric, okay, you can solve some of your problems there. So I think there will be inevitable convergence. Wayne, you've observed, I think, in some other segments that all good things converge in tech. And if I've quoted you accurately, I would wholeheartedly agree.